The atmosphere around Philadelphia has been heavy ever since the season came to an abrupt and frustrating end, long before the final whistle of that playoff loss. There was a growing sense that the direction of the offense was drifting away from what this roster was built to be. Inside the building, the mood was not about shock, but about inevitability. When a team with championship aspiration fails to meet even its basic offensive standards, difficult decisions stop being optional and start becoming necessary. This was not a reaction fueled by emotion or one bad night. It was the result of months of internal evaluation, film study, and honest conversations about why a roster loaded with talent consistently struggled to impose itself. Philadelphia entered the season believing it had one of the most complete offenses in football, capable of controlling games, dictating tempo, and supporting a defense that was doing its part. What unfolded instead was an attack that too often stalled, lacked rhythm, and failed to evolve as opponents adjusted. The separation from the offensive coordinator reflected that reality. The timing of the move made it clear that the organization had already reached its conclusions. Decisions like this are rarely made overnight. They are formed through patterns, repetition of the same issues, and the absence of meaningful solutions. Publicly, the messaging focused on respect and professionalism, acknowledging the effort and work that had been put in. Privately, the standard remained unchanged. In Philadelphia, being good is not good enough. The expectation is to compete for a championship every season. That expectation carries weight, especially when the roster justifies it. This offense was never supposed to be average. With an elite quarterback in his prime, a dominant defensive line, a productive running back, and a receiving group that ranks among the best in the league, mediocrity was always going to be unacceptable. The frustration came from watching games where the talent advantage was obvious, yet the execution and structure failed to capitalize on it. As the season progressed, the same story repeated itself. Early drives often looked promising, with scripted plays creating space and movement that hinted at what the offense could become. But once defenses adjusted, that spark faded, the creativity dried up, the counters never arrived, and the second halves became increasingly difficult to watch. Close games slipped away not because of a lack of effort, but because the offense could not sustain drives or generate answers when the pressure increased. The numbers tell that story without mercy. Scoring production dropped sharply after halftime, turning manageable leads into tense situations and forcing the defense to carry an unfair burden. Averaging fewer than 10 points in second halves across the season is not about variance or bad luck. It points to deeper issues in adaptability and in game management. Playoff teams thrive on adjustments. Philadelphia struggled with them. One of the most telling signs came from the way opposing defenses approached the Eagles late in games. There was a clear confidence in how to attack the offense, an understanding of tendencies and limitations. Predictability crept in, making every third down feel like a battle uphill. Sustaining drives became a challenge, and without sustained drives, momentum was impossible to build. Third downs, in particular, exposed the lack of offensive identity. Too often, the play designs failed to stress defenses or provide clear, quick answers for the quarterback. Everything felt tight and contested, as if the offense was always operating in a narrow margin for error. That is not how elite offenses function, especially not ones with this level of personnel. The red zone numbers offered some relief on paper, but even that success came with caveats. Short yardage efficiency can mask broader problems for a time, but it cannot be the foundation of an entire offense. When games tighten and opponents take away those options, the cracks become impossible to hide. In postseason football, those margins disappear quickly. Throughout the year, there were visible moments of hesitation from the quarterback, moments that spoke less about his ability and more about clarity within the system. Quarterbacks need structure, rhythm, and trust in what they are being asked to execute. When that trust wavers, everything slows down. Reads become harder, decisions take longer, and defenses gain the advantage. This is where the conversation becomes more complex. The offensive system itself has produced success in the past under different leadership. That matters, because it shifts the focus away from a total philosophical overhaul and toward the importance of execution and play calling. The scheme is not broken. The way it was implemented and adapted over the course of the season was. Continuity has also been a recurring challenge. This marks yet another change for the quarterback, who has already navigated multiple coordinators and offensive philosophies in a relatively short career. Each transition demands mental adjustment, learning new terminology, and building new trust. while elite players are expected to adapt. Constant change comes at a cost, especially when the window to compete is wide open. Despite the disappointment, the production from key players underscores how much potential still exists. The quarterback continued to account for a high number of touchdowns. The running back crossed the 1,000-yard mark once again. Both primary wide receivers surpassed 1,000 yards receiving, and the tight end group remained a consistent weapon. These are not empty statistics. They are evidence of an offense that produced despite its limitations, not because it overcame them. What this season lacked more than anything was a clear foundation. From week to week, the offense seemed to search for its identity. At times it leaned into physicality and the running game. At others, it attempted to stretch the field without consistency. That constant shifting prevented the unit from mastering any single approach. When the playoffs arrived, there was hope that talent alone would be enough to carry the team forward. It was not. The responsibility does not fall on one person alone, but leadership decisions always carry extra weight. Elevating an inexperienced play caller to run an offense built to contend immediately was a gamble. Loyalty and belief in development are important traits, yet timing matters. The cost of waiting too long to make adjustments was a missed opportunity in a season where the path was there to be taken. Now, the focus shifts to what comes next. This is not a rebuild. Philadelphia believes it is close, and the roster supports that belief. The next offensive coordinator will inherit one of the most attractive situations in the league, with elite talent already in place and a clear mandate to maximize it. The challenge will be finding a voice that can bring coherence, adaptability, and confidence back to an offense that too often looked uncertain. The lesson from this season is clear. Talent sets the ceiling, but structure and adaptability determine whether that ceiling is ever reached. Philadelphia has seen how thin the margin can be between contention and disappointment, and that reality will shape every offensive decision moving forward as the offseason unfolds. The internal conversations in Philadelphia are centered on urgency rather than patience. There is a clear understanding that the margin for error is shrinking, not expanding. Championship windows in this league are fragile, and even rosters stacked with talent can see those windows slam shut faster than expected. The frustration from last season is now being used as fuel, a reminder that potential alone does not win games when January arrives. One of the most pressing themes is accountability, not just in words but in structure. The organization has made it clear that standards will not be lowered to protect comfort. Every decision moving forward is being filtered through one question: does this bring the offense closer to being reliable when the pressure is highest? Reliability, more than flash, is what this team lacked when it mattered most. The search for a new offensive coordinator is not about chasing trends or copying what worked elsewhere for a brief moment. It is about finding someone who understands how to blend aggression with control, creativity with discipline. Philadelphia does not need an offense that looks good on highlights alone. It needs one that can sustain drives, flip field position, and protect leads without becoming predictable or passive. What stands out is how often last season's offense played as if it was waiting for something to happen rather than making it happen. There were too many stretches where momentum slipped away quietly, without a single decisive play to stop the bleeding. Great offenses sense those moments and respond with intent. They apply pressure when defenses are vulnerable. That instinct was missing, and everyone inside the building knows it. The quarterback remains central to every discussion. He is still viewed as the franchise cornerstone. But even elite quarterbacks need an ecosystem that amplifies their strengths. His ability to extend plays, threaten defenses with his legs, and deliver accurate throws downfield should be the foundation, not an emergency solution. Too often, those skills felt like bailouts rather than integrated elements of the offense. Part of that issue was how defenses began to dictate terms. Opponents were comfortable sitting in looks that forced long, methodical drives, confident that the Eagles would eventually make a mistake or stall. Explosive plays dried up, and without them, the offense lost its edge. Big plays are not just about scoring quickly. They change how defenses align, how aggressively they can play, and how much pressure they feel on every snap. The lack of explosive production was especially damaging in games where the defense did its job early. When the offense failed to capitalize on favorable field position or early stops, it allowed opponents to hang around. Close games demand precision and killer instinct. Philadelphia often had neither at the right time. There is also a mental component that cannot be ignored. Confidence is built through repetition and success, and when an offense repeatedly fails to adjust, doubt creeps in. You could see it in the body language late in games, in the cautious play calls, in the hesitation before the snap. That is not a reflection of effort. It is a reflection of uncertainty. This is why clarity will be such a priority moving forward. Players want to know who they are and what they can lean on when games tighten. An offense without an identity is easy to defend, because it never forces opponents to commit. Philadelphia must decide what it wants to be and commit fully. Even when adversity hits, the offensive line remains one of the strongest units in the league, and that should shape everything else. Dominance up front is a luxury many teams do not have. It allows flexibility, balance, and control, yet last season, that advantage was not consistently maximized. A more cohesive offensive vision can turn that strength into a constant problem. 4 defenses instead of an occasional one. The running game, while productive in stretches, often felt reactive rather than intentional. There were moments when it controlled games, only to be abandoned without explanation. Balance is not about equal numbers of runs and passes. It is about using each to reinforce the other. When that connection breaks, defenses gain clarity, and offenses lose leverage. At wide receiver, the talent speaks for itself. Both top targets have proven they can win at all levels of the field. The challenge is creating situations where those wins come within the rhythm of the offense, not as isolated moments. Route combinations, timing, and spacing all matter. When those elements are aligned, the passing game becomes sustainable rather than streaky. The tight end position also remains a valuable chess piece. Mismatches over the middle, reliable hands on third down, and red zone presence are all areas where this group can thrive. Maximizing that potential requires intentional design, not just availability. These players should be featured, not merely included, as much as the focus is on the offense. The broader context matters. The defense showed it could keep the team competitive even when the offense struggled. That should have been a springboard. Instead, it often became a safety net that masked deeper issues until it was too late. Relying on that balance without correcting the offensive flaws is not a sustainable strategy. There is also an emotional aspect tied to expectations. In Philadelphia, success is not measured by improvement alone. It is measured by results. Falling short carries consequences, and everyone involved understands that. That pressure is not something this organization avoids. It embraces it, believing it sharpens focus and exposes truth. The next offensive leader will step into a locker room that is hungry, but also demanding. Trust will have to be earned quickly, not through speeches, but through preparation and adaptability. Players want to see answers when defenses adjust. They want to feel supported by a plan that evolves as games unfold. FlyEaglesFly News Family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. Shockwaves are reportedly sweeping through the NFL as rumors surface that the Philadelphia Eagles may have pulled off one of the most unexpected moves in recent memory. Sources close to ESPN suggest that the team has inked contracts with not just one, but two high-profile quarterbacks, Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. While neither the Eagles nor the league have confirmed the signings officially, the whispers alone have already sent fans and analysts into a frenzy. The potential acquisition of Love and Prescott simultaneously raises immediate questions about the team's quarterback strategy. Could the Eagles be planning a bold, dual quarterback system? Or is this merely a preemptive move to secure talent for the coming seasons? Both players bring contrasting styles to the table. Prescott, known for his leadership and poise under pressure, and Love, an up-and-coming talent with a strong arm and developing instincts, could form a dynamic combination that keeps defenses guessing. The rumor has ignited a flurry of speculation across social media. Fans are already debating whether this move signals a shift in the Eagles' approach to offensive play calling. Some pundits suggest that adding to quarterbacks of this caliber might create internal competition, while others argue it could be the key to solidifying a team that has struggled with consistency under center in past seasons. Analysts are particularly intrigued by the implications for the Eagles' roster and salary cap. Managing the star quarterback simultaneously is no small feat, and it could reshape the team's priorities in upcoming drafts and free agency periods. The strategy might also influence how other franchises approach the quarterback market, potentially setting a precedent for stacking talent rather than relying on a single starter. While all of this remains speculative. The mere possibility of Love and Prescott joining forces in Philadelphia is enough to make the NFL world take notice if confirmed. This could be one of the boldest and most talked about moves of the decade, sparking endless debates among fans, commentators, and rival teams. Until official confirmation arrives, the rumor mill will continue to churn, keeping the Eagles at the center of one of the sport's most tantalizing what-ifs. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.